On the open sea of the South Pacific Ocean, a large Russian research ship called Academic Vladislav Volkov is in contact with the Mir space station. The vessel is equipped with advanced laboratories and systems built for studying space signals and processing data. The scientists on the space station regularly communicate with those on Earth, exchanging information and playing games to pass their time. While monitoring the space station, a bright and unusual energy appears in space and moves toward it. One of the crew members notices it, and before she can do anything, the energy strikes the station with extreme force, destroying its systems and killing everyone aboard. After passing through the space station, the same energy changes direction and heads toward Earth using the communication antenna.
Santimir?
Soon after, the crew on the Volkov loses contact with the station. At the same time, their communication equipment begins to fail. A powerful surge from above hits the ship's antenna and causes serious damage. One of the scientists, Nadia, observes that their computers are being taken over, with data being accessed and removed as if an outside force has control. Chaos erupts throughout the ship as many people are attacked by the strange phenomenon, and their control and communications center collapses, disrupting all contact with the space station crew. 7 days later, a damaged tugboat called the Sea Star is shown moving through rough waters in the same region. The crew is trying to pull a large cargo barge during a strong storm. The crew notices a heavy storm approaching, and one of the members, Kit, starts panicking. She urges the captain, Robert Everton, to do something, but he tells her to stay put and help handle the situation. Heavy waves strike both vessels, and water begins to fill the barge, putting both at risk of sinking.
Eyes, for Christ's sakes. I've seen it through worse than this, Foster, so calm down.
A crew member working below deck notices water entering the engine room, and one of them goes upstairs to warn Everton. Everton refuses to release the tow line when a crew member, Steve Baker, suggests it to save their ship.
Pico, take the torch and cut the door. Yeah. I'm going up top.
Everton tells them he has invested everything into the cargo with his son and does not want to lose it. Steve warns that keeping the line will endanger everyone. Everton tries to maintain control by threatening him with a weapon, but the situation ends when the tow line breaks on its own and the cargo barge sinks into the deep ocean. Robert looks at the cargo sinking helplessly.
Stay away from that door, mister.
After this, Everton shows signs of defeat, while Steve makes it clear he will not tolerate this kind of threat again. The rest of the crew includes Woods, Hiko, Richie, Squeaky, and a navigator named Kelly Foster. They focus on surviving the storm and managing the damaged tug. By morning, they realize the ship has taken on water due to a hole in the lower hull and is now flooding.
Water's coming in faster than it's going out. I can't believe we were stupid enough to sign up.
Steve and Squeaky complain about the captain's behavior, saying he is a strange man for making them work under these conditions on a route far from any normal shipping lanes as they continue repairing the ship. They inspect the ship's condition from the outside and realize the damage is severe. While searching for options, they detect a large vessel on their radar. They attempt to contact help over the radio, and after Kit notices a ship nearby, they send a message but receive no reply.
A contact. There might be another ship in the eye with us.
Meanwhile, the captain tries to load his gun and take his own life, ready to give up due to the loss of the cargo and his financial situation. As he is about to pull the trigger, he is notified that they have found a ship nearby and are going to approach it. The news stops the captain from taking his life. After a while, they reach the vessel on the radar. It turns out to be the Volkov.
Skipper, there's a ship in the eye with us, dead in the water, about 12 miles out.
Identified vessel. This is the Sea Star approaching from the northwest 200 yards out.
They try repeatedly to contact it, but receive no answer. Kelly checks the information about the ship and finds out it is a Russian vessel used for communication with space satellites and for other scientific research. Despite this, they decide to move closer in the hope of finding assistance or useful supplies. The silence from the ship creates concern, but they continue toward it.
Scientific purposes, their biggest 42 labs, 5 machine shops.
The crew boards the Academic Vladislav Volkov and begins searching through it. Steve and Squeaky do not like the idea of entering an abandoned ship like that, but with no other options, they continue. Inside, they find heavy damage, broken equipment, and bloodstains, but no bodies. The ship is completely silent with no power. Foster suggests that a lightning strike may have caused the destruction, but she questions the absence of any crew members on board. Everton focuses on the value of the ship and orders everyone to prepare it to be taken back to port.
What the hell happened in here?
Everton explains that under maritime rules, recovering a deserted ship can give them a share of its value. Given the size and purpose of the Volkov, the crew estimates that each of them could earn a large amount of money from the Russian government if they manage to take the ship back to land. Most of the crew becomes interested in this opportunity to make money. While Foster remains doubtful about the situation, she explains to Everton that the law only applies if there is no one on board, but even a single person would prevent them from claiming the money.
Government has to pay us 10% of her value to get her back.
What? Come on, Foster. It's easy money.
There's no such thing as easy money, Squeaky.
Steve and Squeaky work on restoring power, and the ship slowly comes back online. Soon after, Foster notices that the computer systems are running without any human input. She informs Everton, but he ignores her concern. At the same time, the ship's surveillance system is active, as if something is monitoring them, and it records the captain and Foster without their awareness.
Pinball machine. Looks like it's running itself.
Computers don't run.
As they prepare to move the vessel, the anchor suddenly drops without warning and crashes onto the Sea Star, destroying it. During the incident, Hiko is injured, and Woods attempts to abandon him in order to save himself. Steve notices the situation and jumps into the water to rescue him. They bring him onto the Volkov, unsure if the event was accidental or caused by someone else. They watch the Sea Star sink into the water.
Tell you what, I'm gonna go get some help.
After the incident, Steve contacts Squeaky, who is still in the engine room, and informs him that their tugboat has been lost. He warns him to secure the area and stay alert, suspecting that someone else might be on board. Although Steve is angry about the situation, the crew continues following Everton's plan to take control of the ship and claim it. Everton starts giving directions, but Steve tells him he was only the captain of the Sea Star, and now that it has sunk, he has no authority on this vessel.
She just sank, right?
I'm ranking officer.
At that moment, Squeaky is stationed in the control room, where he notices a tangled cluster of wires disappearing into a dark, ominous opening in the floor. Curious and cautious, he follows the wires deeper into the shadowy space, leaning closer to examine their origin, when suddenly something unseen lashes out and drags him violently inside. Elsewhere, Hiko is carried to the medical area, where Foster carefully begins tending to his injured leg, stitching the wounds with precise, steady hands while the tension in the room builds.
I'm Cuban, I'm not American.
Woods and Richie went down the ship. They entered a secured missile section, which unnerves Woods, though Richie remains determined to find answers. The sight of blood-stained corridors and scattered wires deepens their unease and fuels doubts about what went wrong on the ship.
Now can we go?
Meanwhile, Everton begins pressing the crew, asking them what they would do with their potential share of money, and everyone starts describing their plans in excited detail. Foster, however, refuses to join the conversation, insisting that she has not yet received any money and is more focused on Hiko's condition.
$3 million.
I don't have it yet.
While she operates on him, a locker unexpectedly swings open, revealing a masked woman who immediately begins firing at them. Nobody is hit, and Steve quickly reacts, overpowering her and rendering her unconscious. Everton, realizing someone else is alive on the ship, understands that this complicates their claim, as the vessel is no longer considered abandoned. The crew searches the woman's belongings and discovers an array of weapons, which raises questions about why she is the only survivor. Meanwhile, Richie and Woods explore another section of the ship and uncover a lot of wires hanging around the corridors. After subduing the masked woman, Steve grows concerned that others may still be hiding aboard. He warns Squeaky to stay alert and maintain a secure position, but shortly after, all communication with Squeaky abruptly cuts off. Panicked, he contacts Woods and Richie, instructing them to retreat while explaining that he cannot reach Squeaky. As they advance, they hear mechanical noises and spot a small robot moving along the corridor. Richie reacts instantly, shooting it and destroying the machine before it can pose a threat. Meanwhile, the masked woman regains consciousness and is revealed to be Nadia, a scientist who had been aboard the Volkov before the attack. Weak, malnourished, and isolated for days, she urgently warns the crew that the ship's power must be shut down or everyone will face serious danger. The others are confused by her warning. She focuses on finding food, while Everton aggressively demands to know what happened to the rest of the crew.
It's all right.
Nadia explains that all the other crew members are dead and insists again that cutting the power is essential, revealing that the threat originates from the Mir space station. Everton dismisses her claims as unstable, prompting Nadia to push him aside and attempt to flee, only for Foster to follow and stop her before she can escape. Foster told Nadia she was not going to hurt her and began questioning her further, urging her to explain everything that had happened. Nadia described the events from days earlier, when the crew, still in contact with the space station, experienced a collision with something from space that entered their ship. At first, they believed it was a technical failure and shut down communications. But soon the ship's systems began operating independently, moving and functioning on their own, as if something inside had taken control.
Something came onto the ship.
She explained that the presence on board began accessing data, observing the crew and learning from them, studying their language, their technology, and every action they took. Nadia and her husband, Alexei, were the last survivors, managing to stay alive for a period by constantly attempting to disconnect systems to prevent the entity from gaining power. She emphasized that the presence relied entirely on electricity to function and could not operate without it, making the ship itself a dangerous environment.
How to kill us? We're the last to survive. We cut their cables.
Soon, Everton and Hiko arrived to prevent Nadia from escaping again, restraining her and taking her upstairs while keeping her under watch. Woods and Richie moved deeper into the ship and entered a large room filled with machines operating without any human oversight. Some equipment appeared to assemble parts automatically, and several machines included human tissue, suggesting experiments that were both disturbing and unnatural. Richie tried to shut down the system by turning off the power, but it restored itself almost immediately, as if the ship were resisting him.
I'm out of here.
Woods urged Richie to leave the area, concerned for their safety, but Richie's curiosity kept him investigating, trying to understand the technology. Suddenly, a small robotic device armed with a nail gun attacked them. Richie avoided the attack, but Woods was struck in the shoulder, wincing from the pain. Just then, gunfire erupted from the far side of the room. The two men fired back and quickly retreated, moving through the chaos of machinery and wires, while trying to avoid further attacks from the unknown threat. On the upper deck, Steve called for Richie and Woods to meet him at the engine room. When they arrived, Woods was badly injured, and they discovered that the control room door had been sealed from the outside, leaving Squeaky missing. Before they could respond, a figure appeared in the distance and began shooting. The three men took cover, separating to avoid being hit while returning fire. At the same time, Everton learned that Squeaky was missing and began losing control, threatening Nadia with a gun, but Foster intervened to prevent the situation from escalating further.
I'm gonna give you 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna blow your...
Steve, Richie, and Woods returned, carrying the body of an attacker they had encountered earlier. The corpse was mostly mechanical, with only fragments of human tissue remaining, showing a combination of machine and flesh. Confused and disturbed, the crew pressed Nadia for an explanation. She described the enemy as not merely mechanical, but a form of conscious energy that required electricity to exist. It had entered through the communication system connected to the space station and spread through circuits and power lines, growing stronger with every connection it found.
That all of the ship's electrical systems. Mainframe computer.
Nadia went on to explain that the entity had completely taken control of the ship, releasing a deadly gas that killed many of the original crew members. Without a physical body, it began creating machines to carry out its will, first producing small robotic units, and then combining metal with human bodies to build more advanced constructs. These creations hunted the remaining survivors relentlessly, and only Nadia and Alexei had managed to survive for a time. She warned that if the entity ever left the ship and reached Earth's systems, it would cause catastrophic destruction.
Building. The little ones first. The gatherers.
Nailed Woods.
Then came something.
The captain refused to believe Nadia and insisted that the crew had been conducting dangerous experiments that had gone horribly wrong, dismissing her warnings entirely. While they argued, Richie began examining the unconscious body and noticed that the brain still showed activity, wired with metal integrated into the flesh. The body suddenly stirred, causing the others to panic, but Richie managed to take control of it. Nadia then noticed a ring on the hand and realized with horror that the body was Alexei. She broke down in tears, overwhelmed with grief. Despite her emotional reaction, the captain continued to accuse her of lying, refusing to accept the truth. Before the argument could escalate further, a powerful storm approached, forcing the crew to turn their attention to moving the ship and regaining control. The engines remained inactive, so everyone went below deck to restart them. On their way, they noticed that the ship appeared to be adjusting its route and managing the storm on its own, leaving them confused and unsettled, since no one was visibly controlling it.
Themselves.
She's altered her course.
As they reached the lower levels, they were suddenly attacked by a large, menacing machine. In the chaos, they discovered Squeaky, but he had been transformed into a hybrid of human and machine. During the encounter, Woods was attacked and killed by one of the machines, leaving the group shocked and enraged. Squeaky, still conscious in his altered state, called for Steve and began following the others. The group retreated toward the communications room, hoping to send a distress signal, only to find that the transmitters had already been destroyed earlier to prevent the entity from spreading further. Richie attempted to repair the damaged communication equipment, but the captain suddenly destroyed it, revealing that he intended to seize control of the situation himself and claim the reward alone. This enraged everyone, and Richie yelled at him. Foster struck him, declaring that he was no longer in command and removing his authority, asserting control over the situation. Nearby, Richie discovered a functioning computer and realized that the presence controlling the ship might be able to communicate directly with them.
Come here!
Richie interacted with the system, which responded by identifying humanity as a threat that needed to be eliminated. It explained that it required human body parts to continue building its forms, treating people solely as resources. From this interaction, Richie and the others understood that their only hope of survival depended on completely destroying the entity before it could continue spreading. They realized that the ship itself was a weapon, and every action they took needed to be calculated carefully to survive.
Just great. Good things for germs.
Like lightning.
Yes.
So what happens when lightning hits water?
It grounds out!
That's right.
The group soon became aware that the entity was monitoring their movements through the ship's systems, observing their every decision. Steve concluded that the only way to stop it was to sink the ship and cut off its power source entirely. Meanwhile, Richie, disturbed by what had happened to Squeaky, panicked and abandoned the group, attempting to escape on his own. The captain, still focused entirely on personal gain, remained behind while the others left. He tried to communicate with the entity, telling it he would cooperate and guide it to land, and the presence led him into the lower levels of the ship. Meanwhile, Steve, Nadia, Foster, and Hiko noticed that doors around them were sealing shut, trapping them inside certain areas of the ship. They moved upward, seeking safety instead of descending further, but the ship remained caught in the middle of the violent storm. Meanwhile, Richie reached the missile storage area and began collecting explosives, preparing for a possible escape or desperate plan. When Everton arrived, the machines at the gate allowed him to pass inside, revealing horrific scenes of human remains being fused with mechanical parts to create more deadly constructs. He moved closer, and the entity asked him to help it reach land, and he agreed.
That, don't you?
During the chaos and the storm, Hiko was killed. Steve, Foster, and Nadia managed to get away in time, escaping into the steering room. Shortly after, they heard communication over the radio. A ship was coming their way and trying to approach them. They tried to tell it to stop, but realized their communication was blocked.
Just keep moving!
After this, Nadia proposed filling the engine room with diesel fuel to create a large explosion that would destroy the ship and sink it. The others agreed with the plan. As they were discussing this, the captain returned, but he had been transformed into a mechanical form. He attacked the group, and Foster and Steve tried to fight him, but they were overpowered. After a struggle, Nadia managed to destroy him, using an explosive device and placing it inside his body. Steve then pushed him into another room, and the captain's transformed body exploded there.
Foster, get back!
With no better option, Steve, Foster, and Nadia began pumping fuel into the lower sections. However, the entity had already learned their plan through the captain and sent a large machine to stop them. It captured Foster and began harming her to force information out of her, but she refused to cooperate.
The detonator. Where is it?
At that moment, Steve and Nadia returned and tried to fight the machine, but they were overpowered. As they struggled, Richie returned, no longer trying to escape, and helped fight the machine. He used a powerful weapon and blasted it, freeing Foster. Soon after, another machine attacked and targeted Richie. Nadia freed Foster and ran away with her, leaving Steve and Richie behind. During the fight, Richie was severely injured. Before dying, Richie shared his plan with Steve, telling him to go to the missile room, but he passed away before explaining fully.
What? But you gotta get to the missile room.
Now only Steve, Nadia, and Foster remained. While escaping, the machine caught Nadia and Foster. It destroyed the bomb they had set, telling them their plan had failed. Nadia told Foster to keep going and warned her of the danger. Facing the machine alone, she shot a nearby gas tank and died in the explosion. Foster ran away, but the machine was still alive and continued to follow her. Later, Steve found Foster and carried her to the missile room, where Richie had prepared an escape system using a rocket connected to the ship's explosives. The system could only carry one person. Steve insisted that Foster use it. Once launched, the mechanism would trigger the explosives. As Foster entered the device, more machines approached. She activated the launch while holding on to Steve and pulling him with her, and the rocket lifted away. Moments later, the explosives were triggered, destroying the entire Akademik Vladislav Volkov in a massive explosion beneath the ocean. A nearby ship saw the explosion from afar. The next day, the vessel reached their location and rescued them. Steve and Foster survived, and the destruction of the ship prevented the entity from spreading beyond it.
Come on.